In a story that's shaken the quiet corners of an Alabama county and echoed across the nation, the daughter of the sheriff who shot a sitting judge in his chambers has finally spoken out, breaking her silence after weeks of speculation, grief, and outrage. What she revealed paints a far more complicated picture than anyone expected. The incident began one ordinary morning inside the courthouse, where Circuit Judge Tommy Lewis was holding private discussions in his chambers. Witnesses recall hearing raised voices before the sound of gunfire sent staff running for cover. When deputies rushed in, they found Judge Lewis bleeding from multiple wounds and Sheriff Robert Bob Hayes standing over him, gun in hand, his face pale with shock. The sheriff was immediately taken into custody by his own department, a sight no one in the small community will ever forget. For days, the question on everyone's mind was simple. Why would a respected lawman, known for decades of service, shoot a judge he'd worked alongside for years? Rumors swirled about corruption, personal vendettas, even threats to the sheriff's family, but no one could separate fact from fiction. Now, his daughter, Emily Hayes, is finally setting the record straight. Speaking through tears in an emotional interview, Emily described her father as a good man pushed past his breaking point. According to her, months of tension had been building behind closed doors. She claims her father had discovered evidence suggesting deep corruption within the local court system, bribes, falsified warrants, and case manipulations tied to powerful figures in the county. When he brought his findings to Judge Lewis, instead of support, he was met with threats. "My dad tried to do the right thing," Emily said. "He wanted justice, but they turned on him." She insists the shooting wasn't a cold-blooded act of rage, but the desperate reaction of a man who felt cornered. "He was scared," she added. "He told me he didn't trust anyone anymore, not even the people in the courthouse." Emily claims her father had received anonymous messages warning him to back off just weeks before the incident, but instead of stepping away, he pressed forward. Court insiders have since confirmed that a sealed investigation involving missing evidence and falsified signatures had been quietly underway, though officials refuse to say whether it was connected to the confrontation. The district attorney's office has remained tight-lipped, citing the ongoing nature of the case. However, a senior clerk who spoke on condition of anonymity hinted that Judge Lewis might have been implicated in efforts to suppress certain files related to an upcoming corruption trial. What makes Emily's account even more compelling is the emotional toll she describes leading up to the tragedy. "He stopped sleeping," she said. "He'd sit at the kitchen table all night with papers spread out, muttering about how they are all in on it." She recalls her father's frustration growing into paranoia, though she insists it wasn't madness, just fear. He thought the system was turning against him. On the morning of the shooting, Sheriff Hayes reportedly went to the courthouse early. Security footage shows him entering through a side door, holding a folder later found to contain case files and handwritten notes. Prosecutors now allege he went there to confront Judge Lewis about an internal cover-up. What happened in that room remains a mystery. No cameras were allowed in chambers, but what followed changed everything. When deputies arrived, the sheriff immediately surrendered without resistance. Witnesses said he looked broken and repeatedly asked if the judge was still alive. Judge Lewis was rushed to a hospital in critical condition and remains under intensive care. The sheriff faces multiple charges, including attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. His defense team is expected to argue that he suffered a mental breakdown brought on by extreme professional stress and betrayal. Emily, however, doesn't believe her father snapped. "He didn't lose his mind," she said. "He lost his faith in the system, and that's what drove him to confront the man he thought had betrayed justice." She insists her father never intended to kill anyone, that the gun was meant as protection, not aggression. "He told me he just wanted the truth to come out." Her words have struck a chord online. Across social media, people are divided. Some see Sheriff Hayes as a fallen hero who uncovered corruption too big to fight, while others view him as a dangerous vigilante who crossed an unforgivable line. Comment sections have turned into battlegrounds of opinion, and protests have begun forming outside the courthouse demanding transparency. Meanwhile, investigators are combing through the sheriff's personal files and computer records. Early reports suggest he was indeed compiling evidence about misconduct within the court, though authorities haven't confirmed whether those leads are valid. "There's a lot of smoke," said one state investigator. "We just don't know yet where the fire is." As the case unfolds, one thing is clear. Emily Hayes has reignited a debate that reaches far beyond her father's fate. Her emotional plea has humanized a man now painted as both villain and victim. "He taught me to believe in justice," she said softly. "I just wish the system he believed in hadn't failed him first." Whether her word will influence the trial remains uncertain. But in the eyes of many, Emily has done more than defend her father. She's reopened questions about corruption, loyalty, and what happens when those sworn to uphold the law lose faith in it themselves. The courthouse where the tragedy began now stands under heavy guard, its marble steps covered in flowers and handwritten notes, some mourning a wounded judge, others supporting a disgraced sheriff. Two men once bound by duty, now linked forever by tragedy. And through it all, one daughter's voice has pierced the silence, demanding not just answers, but truth. She finally spoke, one local reporter said after the interview aired. And after hearing her, it's hard not to wonder if maybe the wrong man's on trial. The investigation continues, but one thing is certain: the small-town courtroom will never be the same again.